Hey pioneers, and welcome back. Last week we started this huge project, maybe the biggest one I've made so far, that is going nuclear, Nico's way. So hopefully let's see if we can finish it on this video. Maybe it's two, I don't know, because there's a lot of work to be done. So what did we do last week? This is the whole factory diagram, and all of this stuff is already done. And we also finished all of this stuff. So we are around halfway through. And there's still, over here, we have an assembler doing quickwire that was originally only connected to this one, and then I added one output more, so I need to change this clock, and make a load balancer. But that's minor. So I'm gonna change a little bit how I'm doing this, because I've been following like the flow of the factory itself, but now I will skip directly to the nuclear reactors. Why is that? These things are huge, and ideally I want to make them look nice, do an original build, and if I do that at the last, it will feel like disconnected from the rest of the factory. So I will be placing now the nuclear reactors, and all of the remaining machines will be like surrounding that zone. So, well, what are the objectives for this? I sort of have an idea of what I want to do. For starters, of course, power plants can be overclocked. There's no downside in overclocking. I always done that. But with nuclear reactors, it's a little bit risky, because if you take them to 250%, that means they need exactly 600 water. That's a full MK2 pipe, and you can do that. But it's risky from the fluid dynamics point of view, especially because we are in the middle of the desert, so the water will be coming from far, far away. So I will overclock them, but not that much. So I was thinking of maybe making a building like it's like a cross with 4 wings, and spread the nuclear reactors over there. And ideally I want all of the machines that handle radioactive stuff to be on the same building, so that I don't irradiate my whole mega factory. And then finally, I'm guessing that the uranium, it would be cool if we can drone it in, so it should have a drone port on the ceiling. I don't know, that's like the idea, what I'm thinking before starting, and then we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. And we got our first idea, and boy, was this hard to pull off. Several things happened. For starters, I wanted to place it next to the segment of the mega factory that does all of the materials we need, but there are some rocks that are too high, so there wasn't enough space. Then all of this is shifted 45 degrees from my factory grid. That is not the world grid, it's Nico's grid. And I did that on purpose. I think it will make it stand out more. But it also makes it really hard to fit, because it always ended up either touching that belt pass over there or this one over here. So it took a lot of trial and error, and it still is not entirely perfect. Over this side we have some rock formations, that thing over there. It will slightly clip into the building. And we have another one over there, that one will slightly clip. So, I don't know, maybe the floor ends up being higher. I didn't want to keep on trying, but we've got it. At the end there are 40 nuclear generators, nuclear power plants, and that gives us, each one of them will be requiring 334 water, that if we use an MK2 pipe it will work, so there's no issues at all. Still, I will have to bring 40 pipes, which is going to be a thing. So how did I start planning this? How do you have an idea? I did the following. I checked on the diagram what are the machines that are related to the radiation, and the scariest ones were these particle accelerators that we need 9.89, that would be 10. So I decided to take that number to 12, and said, well, let's make each wing long enough so that it can fit 6 particle accelerators. So this length over here allows us to place 6 particle accelerators, and the width is, we don't have too much space, but we can make it fit. If we aim it over there, something like that. The load balancer won't have much space, but it will enter. And once I had this length, I simply checked out how many nuclear power plants I could place. Well, what's the proper name? Nuclear power plants. Because you can start at the beginning. As I'm doing it lower, all of this space can't be used. And well, I could fit 5, so it ended up being 14. I like how it's looking. I don't like that it ended up so far away from my mega factory. It will take a long time until I fill all of this up. I should probably have done all of that crap I did over there. I should have done it over here. But well, there was no way to know. So what do we do now? I think that I'd like to set up the drone port first. It would be somewhere on top. And it's also kind of tricky because I don't know how many we need. Do we need 1 or do we need 2? I'm hoping that 1 drone should be able to carry 480. So I will build everything assuming 1 is enough. And if it isn't, I will go and cry on the basement. Or go to the garden, plant myself and pretend to be a carrot. I don't know. Let's assume that 1 works. Done with the drones, and I actually spent a lot of time. I think I did something wrong, but I want to move to another thing. For the time being, we'll remain like that. Well, one thing to note is that I forgot that you can have several drones going to the same port, so only 1 port was enough. But what's the deal? There are no normal uranium nodes over here, so I had to take my uranium from 2 impure nodes. One that's here on top of the mountain, and the other one is somewhere around here on a cave. So when I first set my first drone on the mountains, it barely could take the payload. I mean, it could, but there wasn't too much spare room, which was only 240, so that surprised me. So as being nearby 1 drone was barely enough, when I placed the ones over here, I placed 2 drones. But that meant more time waiting to land. So all of a sudden, these drones stopped working. So now I have 2 drones in the mountains, 2 drones in the caves, and most of the time they are waiting over there. I don't know why. I'm hoping that when we have walls, they will come from the sky and not from underneath. But anyway, 4 drones, these probably must be made with less, but I couldn't make it. Maybe I'll think about it later on. It's most of the time waiting to land. But well, stuff that happens. Let's go and check the drone ports. Here we have our mountain drone port, and this has some fancy stuff, because as I want to automate everything in material, that also counts the ores. So this should only be sending 240, and it's sending 9.23 to a dimensional depot and a container. So here there's a fancy load balancer. This is dividing the belt in 27 pieces, sending 1 over there and well 26 that way. I really hope I can manage to do this with less drones, but I won't stress about it right now. And this is our cave drone port. This one is really fancy. I like how it looks. So in this case, I'm glad with having 2 drone ports. If I end up having only 1, I would have built all of this and it would end up being weird. Apparently, you don't need to place buffers because the drone port still accepts materials while the drone is landing. So I might remove it afterwards, but it helps because if I see that all of a sudden there's uranium here, it means that something's wrong with the drones. And here we have our miner in the middle of the cave. Fancy stuff. Okay, so what could we do next? I think I'd rather do what's probably the most tedious task in this whole project. That's connecting the water to all of the nuclear power plants. We have 40, so that means 40 pipes. I have no clue how I'm gonna do that. So let's get it going. Oh yes, just your classic 5-minute job. Connect 40 pipes across the desert, through mountains, under a few cliffs, and maybe slightly through the void. Nothing like a casual stroll through my own personal nightmare. This was a long build, but well, we've got our beautiful 80 water extractors. I'm placing a pump at the beginning so that we already have some head lift. And then I'm taking all of this spaghetti over these blueprints over here. I spread them out a little bit so that I had space for the pumps and they didn't clip one another, because I don't like clipping. So over here we can see that they are kind of separated, and then over here they get remerged again and go through this huge rail? Pipe bus? I don't know. Through this huge thingy to our nuclear power plant. That was challenging. The pipes are going down through the hole in the middle, which was kind of bad because I wanted to place lifts over here, but now it's all kind of covered. The connections to the front were pretty straightforward, but the others were kind of hard. If I had done this in 1.1 with auto-connecting blueprints and straight pipes, it would have been way faster. But the thing is that we finally have water, and I will never touch a pipe for a really long time. I even ran out of materials. That spaghetti over there, it's a copper sheet temporal factory, because, yep, each one of these required 22, and the dimensional leap can't hold that much. But well, we have an idea of the nuclear power plant, and I think now I'll go back to what we were doing before. All of the machines that are not related to radiation, and once everything is prepared, we'll go back to this zone. Here we go. I placed a lot of machines. All of this crap is new. My objective right now is getting as close as we can to the nuclear power plant, because I don't want it floating in the middle of the desert. And we are pretty close. But first thing I wanted to tell is I faced a problem, that is that all of this module of the factory is far away from the rest of the factory that's doing all of our materials. So how did I handle that? Here we are in the old segment that we made on last videos, and I was already preparing a sushi belt with all of the outputs that I would need, in this case crystal oscillators, electromagnetic control rods and rotors. So this sushi belt gets over here and gets remerged with even more stuff, adding Novelisc and smokeless powder, and then this belt keeps on going to this other part of the factory, where it gets merged with our radio control units, and if we go over here, it gets merged with our alclad casings. So far we have all of these, aluminum casings, sorry, 446 total materials. And then I'm merging it with these AI limiters that are made over here, and this ends up giving us the sushiest sushi belt line you'll ever see. And it's already heading towards the factory, but well, we need some of these materials, so I placed here a programmable splitter, and we are taking out the radio control units and the aluminum casing that we are using on the new stuff I created, and that new stuff creates further stuff that then gets remerged over here. So yeah, here we will have a sushi belt with everything that is required on that factory, which will be kind of a pain when I start up the factory, because it might clog only at the beginning. Once it's working, as all of the numbers are balanced, we shouldn't have any trouble. So what have I added? I did everything that's on top of my factory, that goes from basic materials up to the pressure conversion cubes. So let's start doing a fast breakdown. Over here I'm doing wire, I think all of these are wire, and iron plates, all from iron to have less inputs. And then these make some reinforced iron plates that get merged to the output of this balancer. This is making concrete, and it's giving us two outputs, 26.38 and 94.98, and I'm merging the reinforced iron plates to one of those outputs. So this is another sushi line that, well, it gets separated right here, but well, that was one less belt to connect. So the reinforced iron plates go over there that are doing our modular frames, and the concrete go to this foundry that's doing steel pipes that are required for our modular frames. What am I doing with the modular frames? They get merged to the output of another balancer. This balancer is doing steel pipes, another module that's doing steel pipes, and we get 59 on one side and 98 on the other. So the 59 gets merged to our modular frames, and this sushi belt goes to these manufacturers that are doing our heavy modular frames. And the other steel pipes goes to this segment that is doing encased industrial beams. That also needs concrete that's coming from this other balancer with weird numbers. And then the output of this module, encased industrial beams, get remerged with some of the concrete that I had separated. So yet another sushi line. So in the end, over here that we have our manufacturers doing the heavy modular frames, we have 4 inputs, but only 2 belts feeding them. Because this belt over here is carrying concrete and encased industrial beams, and this belt over here is carrying modular frames and steel pipes. So our heavy modular frames goes to this module that's doing our fuse modular frames. I was lucky that this pipe that I already had like 126 extra nitrogen, and I need 125, so I didn't have to do anything weird. And then the fused modular frames go to these assemblers over here that require radio control units and do our pressure conversion cubes. So the segment of the sushi line I was bringing to this place that also only has radio control units and aluminum casing gets separated over here. We are separating both materials. And then the thing about the casing is that we need part of it over here, and we also need part of it on the actual nuclear power plant. So there's another balancer over here, and some of it's merged and goes back to our mega sushi line. So yeah, there's a lot of sushi lines over here, but I think it's pretty dope. It would be nice to see it working. And also there are way less belts that I usually have, because each belt contains several materials. So I think that's pretty good. And it's one of the benefits of balancing stuff. Now, let me talk about a rabbit hole I fell in regarding balancers. Yeah, I'm going to bore you again with balancers. If we check this one I built, or if we check, I don't know, there's another one, this other balancer, or we can check this other balancer, or that one over there, they all have something in common. They are built exactly the same way. The only thing that changes are the lifts. So that made me think, can we create a generic load balancer that helps for any ratio at all, and then you program it by building lifts? So that was one weekend of my life. I had fun, but it was more time than I should have. And I got to this. We've got these programmable load balancers. And the idea is that you plop one, and then you program it only by connecting these lifts on one side or on the other. Does it work? Kinda. Let's go with an example. Let's take this bad boy as an example. Here we want to divide 22.5 on one side and 49.47 in the other. And that means dividing the belt by 2,159 equal parts. That you might say, that's insane. But it isn't. So how do we start? We start by satisfactory modeler. This is the load balancer I'm trying to do. And if you go over here, it will tell you the numbers. And you'll have to focus on the numbers that are expressed as fractions, because those are exact. If you have a decimal point, it might be rounded up or rounded down. So here we want to send 49 and 7 divided 15 to one side and 22.5 to the other. So then you go to this awesome program I made. Enter the first number. The first number is 49, 7 divided by 15. 49, 7 divided by 15. The second number is 22.5. That one is not rounded up, so we can simply use it, 22.5. And it does all of the math, and it ends up giving us this diagram. What does this mean? Each of these X means one splitter. It actually tells you which is the blueprint that you need to use. Over here, the load balancer N equals 7. So we can see that the first splitter has a 1 and a 1 connected into it. That means that the first splitter, that would be this one, it's connected to the first level and to the first level. What about the second one? Has a 2 and a 2. It's connected to the second level and to the second level. The third one is also 2, 2. Then we see 2, 3. So we have this one that's 2 and 2. This one is 2 and 3. We can see that the lift goes to the higher level, while this one goes to the second one. And well, it tells you exactly what you have to connect on each side. And it actually works. And I was able to do all of the load balancers with this program. But why I said that it was a rabbit hole and it kind of sucked? Because it can't solve any single load balancer in the world. Every ratio can be balanced, but not every ratio can be balanced by building it the same way. All of these load balancers have something in common, that they are made by a line of splitters on the bottom, and one belt always goes to the next split level, and the other two go either to one output or the feedback loop. This means that you can only do one split per level. I mean, this segment we are seeing over here, you can't split it. It needs to go either to one output or to the feedback loop. And that ends up meaning that not every single load balancer can be made. That was a huge disappointment. I thought that I had found something amazing, but yeah, it doesn't work with all of the numbers. So if we mess up, I don't know, 15, 23, for example, this number can't be created using the generic blueprint. It works for most of them. Well, not that one. 100 and 150, well, that's an easy one. 250 and 7.5, that one also works. I mean, it works with some numbers, and with some numbers it won't. But well, still I think it was something pretty cool. Both the program and the blueprints, everything is in my repo. I will leave in the description a link to a Reddit post that gives more information about how to use it. But well, in general, most of the splits you might want to do are solvable, and well, there are some that won't work. Stuff that happens. So, let's continue with this nuclear plant that's taking ages to build. I really butchered this diagram, but well, the thing is that everything that's here in the bottom, all of this has been already done. All of this is what I've just done. Let's move it somewhere else. And I want to do everything that's not radioactive outside the power plant. So we can do this quick wire, which is annoying because I'm really close to Mark 6 belts. I could actually do a temporary factory to have Mark 6 belt and carry this with one, but I think I won't. I want to do this nuclear power plant first, so this will end up being 2 belts because that's a big number. And the other thing that's not radioactive is this small chunk that's doing our nitric acid, I think. Is that nitric acid? Yes. So we'll do these 2 modules. Oh, and we also have silica. This one. And then, if I'm not mistaken, all of this is radioactive. So all of this will be inside... Oh, this is something silly. All of this will be inside the building I made. Let's go. Here we go. Well, as I was trying to get as close as possible to the nuclear power plant, I needed to know where it started and where it ended, so I made a frame for it. I extended it a little bit, and on the middle I'm extending it even more, so it will give it a weird shape. And while I already placed the floors, had to use the trick with the pillars so that these foundations don't end up fighting one another. And, well, first impression is that this is huge. I don't need this much space. I don't know what I'll be doing. The original plan was placing some machines on the roof. I even measured it to place an amount of machines, but maybe I can fit everything inside here. Because the other solution would be taking out from here the plutonium fuel rods in a future, placing some power plants, and then bringing back the garbage over here, processing it, and then taking it away. And the idea is to have all of the radioactive stuff contained, and I don't want to be moving radioactive materials all over the place. So ideally, I want only this power plant to be contained over here, and this is too much space. But well, that's a problem for future Nico. The only thing I wanted to mention is that a couple of nudges to a side and we wouldn't have this ugly stuff. And even if we place a ramp over here, you can still see it. But well, I think I won't be fighting against that shit that happens. So let's talk about the machines that I've been added. I finally finished everything that's not radioactive, so we will be able to start working inside here, placing the particle accelerators and all of those shenanigans. So we start by this new model that's doing the nitric acid. Again, I needed water, and this time I did it an organized way because I've been kind of improvising. So on my spreadsheet over here, this is all of the water I need that's not related to the power plants itself. So I distributed the machines trying to get not too close to the total capacity of the pipe, because yes, you can carry 600 on one pipe, but that's like a difficulty slider. The higher you are to max capacity, the harder it will be for all of the system to work out. So we have only one pipe, actually this one from the nitric acid, that has 526. That's 87% of the total. But well, it's not 100. So let's hope it works. So we are doing over here some iron plates, which go to all of these blenders. I'm using, I think, the base recipe. Yes, nitric acid. And we got the nitrogen going there and also the water. The only thing that I don't like that much is the outputs, because to begin with we are merging a lot of machines into one pipe. That's never good. That's why I'm doing this trick to try to use gravity, and so that liquids won't travel the other way. But yeah, I'm merging all of them, and this will have to go higher, and that's not the best thing you can do. But well, it's already prepared with a pump, and I will be taking it from here to wherever it needs to go. And then of course a small amount is being packaged and it will be sent to an output management. Now I modified a little bit the diagram because that's how we roll. The nitrogen comes from over here, I think, and I used the last wall. All of them are connected, but we still aren't using all of the nitrogen. There's some pipes that have a little bit extra, so I said, hey, that's a good situation to package some of it, because I wasn't packaging nitrogen and sending it to a depot. So we also have another packager that's fed over that pipe that I think it had extra 80 nitrogen, and I'm packaging 20, so now it has 60. Not so much to be able to do something, but well, I can package it. And that's why we have two outputs, one for nitrogen gas and the other for nitric acid. And of course, these guys need the empty fluid tanks that are being made over here and are being separated with another of my programmable load balancers that I'm loving. Best thing I've made so far. So this is all of the nitric acid. Then we had to do a lot of quick wire. So I started from around here. I found that we had some copper. So I'm taking that copper through this weird belt. To these refineries. All of these refineries are doing copper ingots. A lot of copper ingots. And I modified a little bit how I place the machines. I usually place the refineries right in front of one another, but that meant that the water pipe didn't end up being aligned. So right now, yes, there's a gap. They are not in front, but the water pipes looks cooler. So yeah, I think I will roll like that from now on. So here we are doing a lot of copper ingots, and on this module over here, we are doing a lot of caterium ingots. These are less refineries, are 10, 5 on each side. So we have over here 2 load balancers with feedback. That's the merger, that's merging the feedback loops. And then all of these copper ingots and caterium ingots go to this last module of another weird number of assemblers. Oh no, it's not weird. It's 8? I had already forgot what I've done. Yes, it's 8. Yes, this is a normal load balancer. So the caterium ingots get distributed on a lower level, and the copper ingots get distributed on a higher level. So all of this crap is to have these 2 belts. That's going to have quick wire, a lot of quick wire. And it could have been 1 belt if I had MK6, but I didn't want to do a temporal, I forgot the name of the game, factory, to just advance and have some faster belt. So I will be doing everything with Mark V. So there we go. So far I only took them this place that will have a lot of quick wire. And all of this will be pretty cool to watch, because this ends up being exactly 120 caterium ingots, meaning this belt is saturated, and copper ingots is 600, meaning this belt will almost be saturated, and the quick wire will almost be saturated, but there will be tiny gaps. So I think it will end up looking cool thanks to the balancing. But well, let's continue. And on this side of the nuclear power plant, we will be doing the silica we need. And again, I modified the diagram because I can't stick with the same diagram for a lot of time. What's the deal? There's almost not raw quartz that I haven't used. The last ones were up there in the north of the map, and I had to build all of this just to access it up to there. So it was kind of annoying. And when I get there, we have 2 nodes, 2 normal nodes, and I didn't need that much silica. So I didn't want to go through all of this effort just to take a little bit of that raw quartz and convert it to silica. So I decided, well, let's take just one of the 2 nodes and do as much as we can. That's why we needed 288 and 371, but I'm using 600 raw quartz. That ends up giving 741 silica that I will sink in, but well, they are available for any factory I want to do in the future. So yeah, I keep on overcomplicating this. So what do we see here? As this is totally giving us 1400 silica, we can't carry that into one belt, so I divided it into 2 modules. Each one of these gives 700. And each one of these is made by 14 assemblers, so each one gives us 50. And we have 2 1-to-7 balancers. This might sound silly, but it's not a 1-to-14, it's 2 1-to-7. Why? Because this is the merger that has the feedback loop for this balancer, and this is the merger that has the feedback loop for that balancer, and we are splitting among these 2. So if this was a 1-to-14, the merger would have to be before the first split. Anyway, it makes no difference at all, and I don't know why I'm talking. I should prepare a script so that I don't start improvising nonsense. But well, it was really fun to make these balancers, because they are kind of complex and there wasn't much space. Well, there was space, but I placed all of the machines together to one another, so that made me have less space. And now to handle the output, it got a little bit complicated. Because let's go to my super program. One of the numbers we wanted was 288. So if we asking 228 and the difference with 700 would be 412, it can make it. So that's good news, right? But this load balancer has a feedback. And our output belt has 700 silica, and the max capacity is 780. So you can't do load balancers with feedback. If you're already at max capacity or close to max capacity, there was a risk that it wouldn't work, and I didn't want to risk it. So I did something differently. I will only be balancing the output of one machine of the 50 to get a number that then I can later on add chunks of 50 and we get there. So instead of doing 288 and 412, I'm only doing 12 and 38. And this is the balancer I built. That would be this one. That ends up giving us 38 on one side, 12 on the other. And if the 38, I add 5 assemblers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be 250. 250 plus 38 is 288. So this is one of the outputs that is going to go to our power plant. And well, the rest, the 12, go to the rest of the assemblers. That's going to be the silica that I'm not going to use. I did the same thing on the other side, but it was a little bit complicated because there's a prime number, and I'm realizing that my program doesn't like prime numbers. So the first split we would want to do, because we want 371. So it would be 371 and 329. It says nope. So I said, well, let's do the other trick. Only split one machine. That would be 21 and 29. Nope. So, well, let's split two machines. That would be 21 and 79. Nope. But it did work with 3 machines, 21 and 129. That works. So that's the balancer I place over here. We can see that 3 assemblers, so 150 silica is going this way. And it gets split into these two numbers, 21 and 129. The 21 is the one that we are interested on, gets merged with 7 assemblers. So 7 times 50 plus 21 is 371 is the number that we wanted. So this would be the other output. And well, the remaining goes to the remaining assemblers, that goes to the remaining assembler from that side and goes to a sink. So later on, if I want to use this silica, I would place a smart splitter probably, and I can take it from here to, I guess, that belt bus. So well, I extremely overcomplicated this, but I had fun, and I'm loving this program that lets you easily design stuff. Building this stuff takes 10 seconds, and it does cool divisions when it wants to do cool divisions. Sometimes it doesn't want. Prime numbers are bad. And oh boy, am I bad at YouTubing. I was convinced that the video was around the 20-minute mark, but I just did some editing. And it's not, it's way off. So well, I screwed it up again. I think we will be wrapping this one up right now. I apologize to all of the people that dislike long videos. Well, they are probably not seeing right now. The only ones that are seeing are the ones that don't mind. But well, we made a lot of progress, and I'm pretty confident we should be able to finish it on the next one. It's just placing the machines that are inside there, and that's what gets shown in the video. I still have to connect everything to the power grid and decorate that. It's going to take a lot of time, but we are close. Most of the machines have been set, and I think that this will end up being a badass power plant. So thanks for sticking up to the end. The program and the C++ program I made and the blueprints for the balancers, they are all in my repo, and I will add in the description a link to a Reddit post that has more information in case you're interested. Hope you guys had fun, and I'll see you on the next one.